From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, November the 13th, 2023. There were 7 more IDF casualties in the Gaza ground operation this weekend. 5 IDF soldiers were killed on Friday, 4 of them by a blast from a booby-trapped tunnel shaft next to a mosque. The IDF identified them as 39-year-old Major in Reserve Moshe Yedidia Leiter, 44-year-old Sergeant Major in Reserve Yossi Hershkovitz, 38-year-old Master Sergeant in Reserve Matan Meir, and 32-year-old Master Sergeant in Reserve Sergei Shmerkin. 34-year-old Master Sergeant in Reserve Netanel Harush was killed in a separate incident inside Gaza on Friday. 2 soldiers were killed in Gaza yesterday, 28-year-old Major Yisachar Natan and 21-year-old Staff Sergeant Itai Shoham. Intense fighting against terror group Hamas in Gaza continues. The IDF said that today Israeli forces were fired upon from a hospital in Gaza City. An RPG and an anti-tank missile were fired at an IDF force, the IDF said, from the entrance to Al-Quds Hospital, carried out by a terrorist squad that had embedded itself into a group of civilians at the entrance to the hospital. The IDF said its forces were able to identify them, eliminating 21 terrorists. The IDF saying, again, this incident is another example of Hamas's continued exploitation of sensitive sites, including hospitals, to shoot at IDF forces. The IDF is also working to get to what it calls the main base of operations for Hamas under Shifa Hospital in Gaza City and evacuate patients. An evacuation route is open, and the IDF also said in the last 24 hours it delivered 300 liters of fuel to the hospital's doorstep, yet it said the fuel remains untouched after Hamas threatened hospital staff. Evacuations of Gazans in general southward continue today, part of the IDF's local tactical pauses. Several senior Hamas members and commanders were taken out in Israeli airstrikes in the last day, the IDF said, including the commander of Hamas's anti-tank guided missile array in the Khan Yunis brigade and the former head of Hamas's intelligence division. Ground troops also uncovered Hamas terrorist infrastructure at a university and a mosque. Rocket fire from Gaza also continued today at southern and central Israel for the first time since Friday. And rockets and anti-tank guided missile fire continued at northern Israel by Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon, including today where 2 Israelis were said to have been injured. Their condition was not yet reported. Yesterday, an Israeli civilian was killed during a Hezbollah anti-tank guided missile attack from Lebanon that also injured 14 other civilians. He was named by Hebrew media as 56-year-old Shalom Aboudi, an employee of the Israel Electric Corporation, reportedly killed while repairing power lines in the area that had been taken out by a previous attack from Lebanon. The IDF carried out strikes against a series of Hezbollah sites in southern Lebanon in response. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today met with a bipartisan U.S. Congressional delegation in Tel Aviv, led by House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Michael McCaul. The delegation presented Netanyahu with 2 declarations supporting Israel and its right to defend itself and to defeat Hamas, one by the Senate and one by the House. Netanyahu lauding the strong stance of the U.S. regarding what he called a battle of civilization against barbarism.
Thank you. This is an expression of the will, the resolve, and the moral clarity of the American people, as represented by its representatives. So we thank you deeply. We say that the only thing greater than standing with Israel is standing in Israel, and we appreciate the fact that you're here.
Thank you, sir.
And we appreciate deeply your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, tens of thousands of people gathered in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and other parts of Israel Saturday night to demand a return of the approximate 239 hostages, men, women, children, babies being held by Hamas in Gaza for well over a month now. Special exhibits and displays also continue in Israel to plead for the return of the hostages and to share the pain of the hostages' families. Displays also seen around the world, from Manchester, England, to Paris, France, to Frankfurt, Germany, to Durban, South Africa, and beyond. And here in New York, members of the Broadway community came together to offer a prayer in song, sending love and support to the families of the hostages in a version of Bring Him Home from the Broadway musical Les Miserables, Bring Them Home. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, November the 14th at 7 o'clock. I speak with Eric Fingerhut, President and CEO of the Jewish Federations of North America, about the critical importance of American Jewry showing up for Israel tomorrow in the March on Washington, which also calls for the hostages' immediate release. At 7:30, Maggie Haberman talks about Confidence Man, about Donald Trump. At 8, a panel of esteemed clergy from Manhattan's Upper East Side congregations, rabbis Angela Buchdahl, Elliot Cosgrove, and Chaim Steinmetz, talk about supporting Israel during this tragic time. At 9, Natan Sharansky is on L'chaim, and coming up next, it's Good Week, Israel. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, November the 13th, 2023. I'm Teisha Bader. Am Yisrael Chai.